Michael Schluger, and we have a fantastic show for you tonight. Let me introduce the crew. We have Josh Irwin.
Howdy.
And Yahel.
Hello.
Good to have you, man. So lots of stuff to talk about, but before, I'm just going to click very quickly on this share link so other people can join us for this lovely conversation. All right. Okay, so obviously the big story, I think, on everyone's mind is E3's over. E3 just finished this past weekend. Josh and I covered the Microsoft and the Sony presentations. But one thing we didn't cover was Nintendo, because Nintendo didn't really, it had a sort of presentation, right? It did a 30-minute thing in the middle of the day. So both of us were at work or at our day job, so we couldn't cover it properly. But a lot of people came away feeling really jazzed about their presentation. It was only 30 minutes long. So half of Sony's and more than, I think Xbox went like an hour and a half or something like that. Mm-hmm. So very, very short, but a lot of people came away really, really positive about it. Before I start talking about it, what did you two think of Nintendo's presentation?
You want to go first, Josh, or?
No, go for it.
It was okay. I've been like so let down by the Switch that like nothing they can do really excites me right now. I think Mario Odyssey looks awesome though. I gotta say.
Yes.
And I'm very excited about that. I'm not excited about playing it on a Switch, but and I think therein lies the problem for me, at least personally. But it was good. I mean, I like that it was short. I like that it was concise. I like that it didn't feel like they were stretching things out. Like I went back and I watched some of Microsoft's one. God, it just felt like it went on forever and ever and ever. It
was very boring.
It was a long walk for like a drink of water or however that it was like it just went on and on. So I'm excited about a couple of the games that they announced. But again, I'm a little down about the Switch hardware, but that's just my own personal thing.
You're in the right place, Yahel. We've been down about the Switch hardware since day one.
I like the Switch hardware, but
he's a convert. He got one, and
I got one, and I love it. It's although admittedly I haven't touched it. I haven't touched it in like a month, but I mean, Mario Kart 8 is fantastic. Breath of the Wild is fantastic.
Yeah.
But there's not much more to play on there, and ARMS doesn't interest me at all. But anyway, that said, I think the Nintendo press conference was fine. I guess my problems with it were I didn't see anything really new. I mean, they showed a little bit more Mario Odyssey. They showed a logo that looked like it was thrown together that morning for Metroid Prime 4.
Right?
Oh, it looked awful. It looked like something I would have made in high school to like fool people or something. But it's funny. The thing about Nintendo's press conference is the thing that made the most buzz, other than Mario Odyssey, was the re-release or that remake of Metroid Prime 2 or Metroid 2 that's coming out for the 3DS. That was the thing that all the news agencies were talking about, and it wasn't even at their press conference. It was in the Treehouse event. So I don't know what that tells you.
I will say this. I feel that Nintendo has set the bar fairly low for their fans. So anytime Nintendo like tosses them a bone, they just go ape shit, man. They just go insane. So, I agree with you about the Metroid Prime logo. Like, so many people are like, "Oh my god, another Metroid Prime! Yes, finally!" Blah blah. I'm like, it's just the logo, like,
and not even a good-looking one at that.
It's 2 years out. Like, why are you getting excited? There's, nothing in the foreseeable future for this thing at all.
Yeah, I read. Is it true? I read that it's not even development hasn't even started.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It's literally a logo. And then they also made that Pokemon announcement. And it was literally just a dude sitting behind the desk saying, "We're working on it. There's going to be another Pokemon." Like,
Yeah,
really?
Shock.
Like, no shit, there's going to be another Pokemon. Like, they'd have to be crazy not to make another
Right.
one. So that
Yeah,
wasn't like, surprising news or anything like that. I will agree with you guys that Mario Odyssey looks really, really good. And I totally will admit they had 2 different streams of it during E3 that were about 30 minutes each where they showed off different areas of it. I watched both of those streams. It looks so fucking good. And I just came away really impressed that considering how old the franchise is, the fact that they're still able to come up with like a fresh idea, a fresh take on it is just wow. Other things about it though, certain aspects of it did make me feel very cynical, like all the amiibo that they're releasing tied to the game. Why is amiibo still a thing? But that's a whole different conversation. And then we had a new Kirby game announcement that looked like it was going to take advantage of the Switch's. I thought it looked cool. Honestly, my favorite Kirby game is the one that came out for the 64 because it let you mix 2 powers together. It was really, really cool. They've never done that since. And I was like, that's such a brilliant idea. Why haven't you done it? But it looks like you could kind of do it in this one with different, players. So that's kind of cool. Yoshi looked sort of like it had a very little Big Planet feel to it, to me. Like
very
Big Planet
much
crossed with Paper Mario.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I and then of course Fire Emblem. But Fire Emblem looks to
That
me
looked
like
horrible.
yeah, well, it looks okay, but I mean, it's what you see is what you get. There's going to be no depth to that game. It looks like Hyrule Warriors reskinned, and have you 2 played Hyrule Warriors at all?
A little.
Yeah, same here, just a little.
So I will tell you right now, it is super fun for the first 10 hours or so. After that, you realize that that's it. You've hit peak Hyrule Warriors, and everything else is just a rinse and repeat of whatever you've experienced in those 10 hours. And then the game loses all interest for you. In my experience.
I do think we should mention Mario Cross Rabbids.
Oh, yes.
Because that actually looks really good. It's like XCOM with Mario.
Right.
Now, that trailer was a little weird. I mean, Mario is following a Roomba for some strange reason.
It's a little robot that happens to resemble a Roomba, yes.
He's following a Roomba for some reason. And also, something that I noticed in the very first part of the trailer, which it's probably just my own mind that saw it, but when the Peach Rabbid meets the actual Peach, he smells her.
I didn't notice that.
Go back and watch it because
I didn't notice it, but it's been pointed out to me several times. So like people have noticed.
it's really bad. It's kind of like the original Dragon Ball when Goku smells Bulma or whatever. But
interesting.
Yeah, it was very French. We'll just put it that way. It was very French.
I mean, I have to say, I am super surprised that Nintendo is stepping outside of their incredibly small box and reaching out across the aisle and working with Ubisoft, because the announcement wasn't made on Nintendo's presentation. It was made during Ubisoft's presentation. And that's a big deal.
Oh, that's right, isn't it? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and that's a big deal in my mind. The fact that Nintendo, I mean, the closest I can come up with was their collaboration with Squeenix for Super Mario RPG.
Yep.
That's the last time that I'm aware of that I can think of them collaborating with another studio. I can't think of any others off the top of my head. You two are welcome to.
It's been a long time.
It's been a very, very long time. So that's really cool. And I, you know, I think it's going to be beneficial to both companies. It looks fun. It looks like, you know, an approachable, sort of easy to grasp XCOM style game.
Yeah. We got a Nintendo relevant question. It says, Jason Smith asks if Super Mario Odyssey is an RPG. It doesn't look like it.
No, it is not. Not an RPG at all. You do have the power to possess certain objects, which is kind of cool. That's basically like the gist of it. So they showed off that you could possess a dinosaur, you can possess another human, you could possess electricity. And they talked about how the game was developed. They basically tried all these concepts out. Like they tried to make these little vertical slices where they tried to just program Mario doing weird stuff and see what was fun. And then they just kind of tossed it together. It looks really cool, honestly.
Yeah, I think it looks really good too.
Yeah, and they claim that the game is going to be really long, that there's going to be a lot of collectibles. The other interesting thing I noticed about the game was this is the first Mario game that I'm aware of that doesn't have lives, not counting like the RPG or whatever. There's no lives. You just will lose some coins every time you die. And the other thing that was really cool that they mentioned was that in games like Super Mario 64 and Super Mario, what's the one where he has the water pack? Sunshine?
Sunshine.
Am I remembering that correctly?
I think so.
Yep, Sunshine. Yep.
Yeah. So in those games, every time you got the collectible MacGuffin, whether it was a star or a shine or whatever, it took you out of the level and you had to re-enter the level to hunt down the additional shines. They made a point of saying that won't happen this time. You will just stay in the level and keep looking for the magical MacGuffin, which in this case is a moon, like a little mini moon that you find. But yeah, no, it looks great. We didn't see too much outside of Metroid. We didn't see too many 3DS announcements. So a lot of people are pointing that as, and certainly none in the 30-minute main presentation. So a lot of people are pointing at that and basically saying like, it's dead. Like this is the warning sign that they're about to drop, the 3DS line, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys agree with that, or are you expecting? Oh, and also I was going to toss out Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Did that look good to anyone?
It looks fine. I mean,
that's how I feel about. Yeah, like it looked okay. Like I felt underwhelmed outside of Mario Odyssey. Like I just kind of felt underwhelmed. I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Xenoblade, even all of the voice actors sounded exactly the same. So there was this weird thing where it didn't feel like another Xenoblade game or a sequel or anything. It felt like they were showing the same old game. I just forgot how it looked completely or something. Like it was a little strange. But no, it doesn't. I will play it, but I'm not excited about it right now.
Yeah, it looked kind of standard to me as well. The thing that really popped out at me was really odd, but the female protagonist has just really huge breasts. Like
they're massive.
Comically large. And I was just like, it just looked jarring to me because like it would be totally normal and acceptable in like 2000 or whatever. But it felt kind of out of place that they're really big. It just looked weird to me. But anyway, so I get the feeling that we're all on the same page here, that like you guys liked it, but you're not as crazy about it as all the Nintendo fanboys that I've seen on the internet just like gushing.
Yeah, there was certainly nothing that made me say that's why I bought a Switch.
And it's honestly it's a bit of it's a bit of a dry desert. We've got Splatoon coming out, which I don't think appeals to anyone here, but it is popular, so we'll give them that. I mean, it's gonna sell well. People want that game, and I accept that. And then we've got Fire Emblem, the Fire Emblem game, which by the way is also coming to 3DS, which makes me question how good the graphics are going to be if they can port the same game from the 3DS to the Switch. But that's neither here nor there. And then we've got Mario Odyssey coming in the fall, sometime around October, November. And that's pretty much it, as far as I know, for like the big Nintendo releases for the platform. Everything else is a year plus down the line. So,
yep,
it's a bit dry.
Yeah.
But moving on, I did want to talk for a second about Xbox, because obviously this thing came out and the price was announced $499. And Josh and I agreed during the presentation that like that's it, like done deal. This is not going to do well. What was your take on that price point, Yaho?
I agree. It's crazy because the Xbox, like they're acting like they have a console that's in demand, which is just like mind blowing to me. Like by setting that kind of price point, when I looked back in January, it was estimated that like Microsoft had sold about 26 million Xboxes to, I think it was 55 million PS4s. And I mean, people just don't, I'm flabbergasted that they would think like it would be okay to release a console at that price point. When you look historically at consoles that are released anywhere near that price point, they don't do well. There's already, if they want an Xbox, there's already a cheaper version that they can get. Like I don't get it. I don't think it's going to do well. And then the Ars Technica article, Phil Spencer himself is like, yeah, we know this isn't going to do well. Like it's so weird. Like then what are you doing?
Well, so you beat me to the punch. Yeah. So
I'm sorry, I got ahead of.
It's all right. Spencer was interviewed, and he flat out said most people won't buy the Xbox One X. Still one of the worst titles I've ever heard for a console. One of the worst names for a console ever. So yeah, he doesn't expect the 249 Xbox One S to decline in popularity. But my question immediately becomes, if you thought most people wouldn't buy this, why are you releasing it?
Exactly. And it's like,
doesn't make sense.
Even if you think that, why say it? Like, so you don't hear Sony saying that about the PS4 Pro. Like why would you even say that?
So the interesting thing here is that Sony actually has release stats on the Pro. And they say that 1 in every 5 PlayStations that's purchased is a Pro.
It's pretty good.
And that's pretty good. But obviously the Pro is 400.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's going to be 500.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't understand. I'm not sure who is Xbox targeting here exactly.
Well, and it's the weirdest thing too, because Phil Spencer will get on there and tell you that, hey, and comparatively to a modern PC that is this capable, this thing is cheap. But nobody is comparing the price of a console to the price of a PC. Nobody cares. And those developers that are out there making games for consoles are going to make the game so that it runs on the lowest common denominator. They're not going to make the game that only runs on one fucking console that they're going to be lucky if they sell 2 million of these.
Especially one console with half the install base of the PS4.
Yep.
Well, not half. It's more like, because remember the
less than
Xbox
half.
One X is going to be even less than half. It's
Right.
Like
no, you're right.
a fourth or probably a sixth or something like that.
And even still, a developer's not going to take the risk and not have it run on a regular old Xbox One.
No, but here's the thing: the improvements, as I see it, are going to come in one of 2 flavors: an HD resolution pack, right? In other words, higher textures for the characters, or a higher frame rate, maybe a slightly longer draw distance or something like that. I agree with you guys. A developer isn't going to go out of his way to optimize something for the Xbox One X because it just doesn't make sense. I don't see
it doesn't make any financial sense. Yeah.
And can we mention the fact that it looks like a PS2? Like, can we just mention that just real quick?
Maybe they're trying to cause some confusion in the marketplace.
I think they're a little late for that.
Like Phil Spencer said a couple weird things. Like one of them was they asked him about VR and more like the lack of Microsoft Xbox VR, and he said something. Actually, hold on, I have it in I made a note of it. He said we haven't had people climbing over us saying, "Hey, when can you deliver a family room VR experience?" And it's like, no shit, you're not selling consoles. No one's like asking you for fucking anything. So like, why are you making another console that's like $200 more than like your like what? Why? Like, I don't get it.
Hold on, we've got a question, so I'm going to answer this real quick. Jason is asking which is 400 and which is 500. The PlayStation Pro is 400.
350 right now.
Is it 350 right now?
Right now it is, yeah.
I guess there's a sale going on. The Xbox One X is going to be 500 when it releases, And the FF7 remake, don't hold your breath on that one. That one is like at least 2 years out, probably. Sony, what was that?
Did we ever discuss it that Square took it back from the developer they hired to make it?
I mentioned it at one point. I think I mentioned it maybe during when we were discussing the pre-show or something. But yeah, Sony took the development in-house. They were contracting it out to CyberConnect, which does a lot of other stuff. Most prominently, they worked on, in my mind, they've worked on the Naruto fighting games, but they've done a lot of other stuff. But yeah, so they brought the development in-house. It's going to be years out. For sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, I don't understand, like, if you've got the money to spend on, you know, either the Pro or Xbox One X, which, like you said, terrible name. Like, why would you go with Microsoft when they have so few, like, high-quality first-party titles? They haven't told you anything about what's going to go on with VR. Top it all off, they're more expensive. Like there's... I see very little reason, like, and the $500 price point, they put themselves in competition with like cheap gaming PCs, you know? And it's like, well, if I'm already going to spend $500, why not get a cheap gaming PC? If I want to play it on my TV, like, whatever, I'll hook up an HDMI cord and, you know, I can use an Xbox controller on it if I really want, you know, a console like experience. Like, I don't know what market they think they're catering to.
Yeah, I think the question that most consumers are going to ask themselves, because if you're thinking of buying a console, you're not gonna change lanes and all of a sudden buy a PC. So I don't think that's really the issue. The issue is, should I spend $500 on this Xbox One X, or should I spend $350/$400 on this PlayStation 4 Pro and buy some games to go with it?
Well, and the thing is, even if you're one of those people that wants the best of the best, like, how often are you actually going to get the best out of the One X? Right? Like, I mean, like I said, they're going to develop for the lowest common denominator. So,
and that's the thing, right? Because if you care about being the best or having the best, you're probably going to have a PC.
Yep.
Already.
And Destiny's going to run at 30 frames a second on the Pro and the One X. So, like, it just, I don't see, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Really odd.
Jason is asking how much the PS3 and PS4 are now. I don't know how much the PS3 is, but the PS4 is on sale for $249.
Isn't the PS3 about to be discontinued? They're about to stop manufacturing.
Yeah, I think they just announced that they stopped manufacturing. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure the PS3 did. Like you guys said, just stop being manufactured. You might be able to find it online. It shouldn't be too expensive. But the PS4, just a base PS4, is about $250. It's on sale right now. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it'd be $300.
Yep.
But I do want to keep it moving. Let's see. We have the Konami story. That's right. So this is a really dick move on Konami's part. They haven't been having a good year for the most part ever since they kicked out Kojima. Things haven't been going too well for them. And a story is coming out right now that they're reportedly blacklisting ex-employees across the entire Japanese video game industry, which is like such a dick move. Like, anyone reading this will never want to work for them.
Yeah, are they the Yakuza now? Is that?
Yes, they think they are. And then they're not even the ones that make the Yakuza games. That's Sega. So the story came out basically saying that there in Japan, there is the health insurance. There's companies that specifically cater to the video game industry. So they're health insurance companies that cater to video game employees. And on the board of this company is someone who also sits on the board for Konami. A former employee of Konami tried to get health insurance through this company, because essentially my understanding is it's just like one or two companies. But I think one is the major player. And he was basically denied by this board employee, which is super fucked up. And yeah, there's other stories emerging as this one has broken out. Other employees have come forward saying that anytime they go work for another company, they basically get harassed by Konami to get rid of the employee, to the point where one person talked about having to go into the construction industry in between working in video games to try and basically throw Konami off the scent.
So let me tell you something. I don't buy this.
You don't buy this?
I don't. I'm going to tell you why. It doesn't make sense. See, my cats are, maybe you can hear them. They're so upset about the house. The story can't be valid. They're growling.
I can't hear that.
It doesn't, Konami's a company that they're there to make money. How does this help them make money? It doesn't.
They're very vindictive. I mean, I've heard stories. Kojima has himself come out and said that, like, for example, they monitor everyone's time super, super closely. So, like, they know everything you're always doing. Like, you can't.
Okay, that's fine. But okay, actually taking that into account, if you're Konami, wouldn't you want to know when people, because like the article talks about how Konami doesn't want people to mention that they worked for them on their resume. And it's like, well, if you're Konami, I would want people to mention me on my resume so that they do like a check for work history so that I know where they're at. So if any proprietary or confidential company information suddenly pops up at that company, I kind of know who may have leaked it or whatever. Like, I just don't understand like what Konami gets like out of it.
Konami is a very different company, right? Like in terms of business, there's a value associated with your books called goodwill. Okay. So, goodwill has actual value. So I believe this story because they turned down a whole lot of goodwill when Jeff Keighley tried to give an award to Hideo Kojima, and Konami refused to let him go to accept the award.
This is true.
I mean, they obviously do have a beef with Kojima. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
But such a dick move. Why stop the man from receiving an award? Like, how is that?
Oh, no, that is a dick move. Don't get me wrong. But, like, why would you want to make it so people don't even want to come work for you? Like, just from a business standpoint, I'm not saying it's not possible that the story is true. It just logically, to me, it doesn't make sense for it to be like this whole thing where like any employee that like leaves Konami, like they try to blacklist them, Yeah.
My understanding is that Konami is such a powerhouse in Japan. They own health clubs, they own pachinko parlors. Like they're a huge, huge company beyond our limited scope of video games, that I could see them swinging that kind of power. I really could.
I'm also looking up real quick because I'm not sure if it's a publicly traded company or not. It looks like it is. It looks like it is traded though. So, because I was thinking it's still run by the family that founded the company. So that might have something to do with it.
I don't know, man. It just seems a little weird. And there's no. I'm sorry. I have to stop my cats from murdering each other. I'll be right back.
Is that a common problem for you?
I don't think you can hear us now.
Do your cats not get along with each other? Is that what it is?
These two cats, I have 3. These two sometimes get into it.
Interesting.
But
what'd you say about my mother?
But anyway, sorry, Konami.
Yeah.
Where were we? They're great.
I was
they're fantastic.
That, they're still run by the family that founded the company. So I think maybe there is some vindictiveness potentially there. But yeah, these are obviously just rumors.
Yeah, because there aren't any sources named in the article. Really.
No, I don't believe so.
The closest thing that's named is they named the company, the health insurance company that's somebody applied for. Unnamed. And listen, I'm not here defending like, a corporation. I mean, I wouldn't put it past a corporation to do something unethical or immoral, but this just, it seems to be to hurt Konami itself to not, I would want to know if I'm a vindictive corporation, I want to know where my ex-employees are. So if like something similar to like the patent that we had or something that maybe they were privy to comes up in that company, I know who to fucking go after. Like, I don't know.
It sounds.
Maybe
you know what?
I
bet you in like 2 weeks, Konami's going to reach out to you with a job offer.
I hope so. I show up next podcast wearing a Konami shirt.
Like we need you to dig up some dirt on this guy.
Guys, why aren't we talking about Ikari Warriors this week?
So I want to find your Konami shirt and send it to you just so we can pull that off next week. That's awesome.
So that is more or less it for our regular stories. Oh, there is one more. That's right. There is one more. So this is kind of interesting. There was an interview done of Jim Ryan. And if you're not familiar with who Jim Ryan is, don't feel bad. It's a very generic name, but he happens to be. It is a very generic name, Jim Ryan.
And it's two first names. What kind of monster has two first names?
And it's his fault for having it.
Yeah, that's right.
So Jim Ryan is the global boss of sales and marketing for Sony. And so he was recently interviewed by GameIndustry.biz, which if you haven't heard of that website, check it out. They have some really good stuff. They're an industry website. And they asked him a really interesting question. So I'm going to read to you real quick the question and his response. What they asked him about was indie games. They said, you didn't really show any indie games this year or last year. So now clearly indie games are coming to the PS4 all the time. So why aren't you showing them anymore? And his answer was, one of the things we have realized is that these video collages of 10 indie games shown in the minute is almost meaningless. Nobody can really learn anything about the game in that sort of time. It's almost viewed as a waste. There's a time and place in the early stages of the life of the PS4 to make statements. It was more about making a statement that we are serious about the indies, and that we are doing this and that with the indies, No Man's Sky and so on and so forth, which broke out from that and carved its own niche. You know, right now we have tons of indie content on that platform, and the fact that we elected, along with many other things such as Gran Turismo and PlayLink, not to give its own spot on stage this week, in no way means it is not important or it is not there or we don't worry about it. It was just good to talk about in 2013 and 2014. It is less relevant now. We have VR to talk about now, for example. So, believe it or not, this has stirred a little bit of controversy already on the NeoGAF forums. A lot of people are basically saying this guy's putting his foot in his mouth. Indies are super important. We should be talking about them. What's your take on this? Do you think he's being reasonable, or that VR is the new thing, or should we be giving indies their time in the sun?
Go ahead, Yahel.
I think he comes off, especially like in the first 2/3 of that whole big statement, as very dismissive.
Yes.
And whether it was, on purpose or not, and then later he kind of corrects himself. It's hard to tell because, we're just reading it. We're not getting the tone. Right. There's probably a little bit of context missing, in the conversation, just to be fair. But he definitely seems dismissive. I mean, he just, he says it's not as relevant anymore. Those are the kind of words that you use when you're trying to be dismissive, I feel like. And it's weird. He makes it unintentional or not, he makes it sound like indie companies aren't going to develop or indie studios aren't going to develop any VR. He's it's not about the indie developers, it's about VR now. There could be indie VR stuff.
Right. Well, the interesting thing to me was that at their presentation, there wasn't that much VR stuff. They had the VR game with the little cute mouse, I remember. And was there any other VR? Oh, and the VR horror game. That was the other VR thing that they showcased.
They had a few. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but there were probably 5, 6.
5, 6, really?
Yeah, there was that middle section was VR. Remember?
Oh yeah, and they showed the other one with the robot and the hand comes down. So yeah. Okay. I guess there was 3 or 4.
To me, it came off as a guy that feels like they need to have the indie stuff available just to have it, because if not, Xbox will have it, so they need to have it. They need to have a presence in that arena, but they don't really care that much about it.
Yeah, it's really odd. I will say real quick that they tend to showcase the indie stuff a lot more in their own conference. Hello, Cat. In their the one that they have in California every year, PlayStation Experience.
Yep.
Yeah, PlayStation Experience. So they tend to show off a lot more indie content there. But Josh, what were you going to say?
I think a couple of things. Number one, I think they felt a little burned last year by No Man's Sky because they kind of dodged a bullet with No Man's Sky because a lot of that hate was starting to be directed at Sony, and they threw their hands up and they're like, "Hey, look, we helped market this. We had nothing to do with its development."
Mm-hmm.
So they're probably
That's
a little
gun point.
Yeah, they're probably a little gun. They're probably a little gun shy there because they didn't know that No Man's Sky would blow up the way that it did, right? And then the other thing is, you're talking about a market leader, right? You're talking about they've got what 80, 90 million consoles out there or something fucking ridiculous at this point compared to Xbox's 30 million consoles. So like the indies are going to come to their platform because they're the number one, right? I mean, even giving away Rocket League for free, look at how well Psyonix has done because of Sony's open indie policy, right? So like they don't really have to talk about it because they're the place everybody wants to be. And finally, my last point, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, is that their pre and post shows that they did every day during E3 featured a lot of indie talent. Like they featured a lot of indie talent. So if you weren't watching the PlayStation Live stuff, you were missing out because they really did show a lot of indie stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, two things there. First of all, I totally forgot to talk about Rocket League because Rocket League was announced for the Switch, and I thought that was a really smart move on Nintendo's part.
Yep.
And they said crossplay, which is really huge. So they said crossplay between everything except PlayStation. So now actually there's pressure on PlayStation to stop being a curmudgeon and basically allow crossplay. And Rocket League has said we're ready for it. Sony just basically has to give us the permission to do this.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But I will say this, you make some very good points. I still think it was a little dismissive because indies really set the PlayStation 4 apart when it first launched. Mm-hmm. And which he points out. I mean, he even admits it, that was a big deal initially. And it just seems like they're getting the cold shoulder now that they're like such a huge success. But as again, he points out, indies are constantly coming out on the console. And so I would think he would do them a little more justice.
And he may have just stuck his foot in his mouth or maybe not meant it the way it came across, but I don't know. It just seemed like a very, at best, a poor choice of words.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in context, he was talking about the big stage.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's what he was talking about. I don't think he meant Sony's stance in general. I think he meant, look, we're giving our E3 presentation. We want to show the flashy shit. And we probably expected Xbox with Scorpio to start showing like a lot of flashy shit. So we wanted to match that.
No, you make a good point because, I mean, and I know this is like an older game, but let's say like, you're CBS News and you're at E3 and PlayStation is showing Super Meat Boy or whatever. And you're like, wait, what? This is supposed to be running on the latest console. You know what I mean? So I get where they're coming from in that respect. Because CBS News, like, they don't fucking know.
Yep, exactly.
That's
for
true.
Sure.
That's true. So that is, believe it or not, all the stories we have for you this week, the regular stories. Obviously, with E3 just being over, it's going to be a little while before we get hit with another splooge of news. But there are two amazing what the fuck stories for you. And the first one involves Atari, of all companies. And basically, Atari has teased that they are working on the new console. Now, we don't really have too many details on said console. They released a little teaser video which shows off some like wood grain that I think alludes to obviously the original Atari was 2600. Am I getting the number correct?
That the original was the 2600. Yes, correct.
Yeah. So that one had a wood grain finish on it, and I think that's what the illusion is here. But otherwise, we don't really have too many details in this 21-second teaser video. It just says that I think Atari Box or whatever is coming. And my only reply is basically, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing, Atari?
I think the only thing I read about it, like the only is like, which is still vague, is like it's PC based.
Right? Isn't that weird? It's not Android based or Linux based or anything else. It's PC based, which is
so what does that mean? PC based to you? Does that mean it's Windows based, or you mean like
I'm thinking it's another
architecture?
shitty Steam box.
I
You think that's what this is? Just a shitty Steam box?
I mean, it might be a nice wood grain Steam box.
Man, this is such a weird announcement, right? Because yeah, like you said, it's got the they're like, this is PC based, which doesn't make any sense at all. So what is it, an x86 processor? In that case, like the PS4 and Xbox One are PC based.
Right.
But like the other weird thing is that like who even knew that Atari had a CEO? Like
right?
Who knew?
I did, just because I've been doing research for the last few weeks about Atari.
But like Atari is this company that has traded hands so many times in the last 20 years that who even knew where the fuck they were? Like at this point, it makes more sense for Sega to say we're announcing a new console than for fucking Atari to say it. Right?
Can you imagine Sega rolling up its like sleeves and being like, "All right, guys, we're back."
Yeah, they're like, "Hey, man."
Tom Kalinske shows up. I'm back, and I'm
hold my beer
over.
Dreamcast 2, motherfucker. Like, actually, I think people would lose their shit about that.
Actually, yeah. Well, okay. So, like, my thinking is like, it's so weird that they do this teaser, they announce it with no information whatsoever, right? So, like, why would they announce it now? Give no information. Like, what's the point other than to like cash in on, it's around E3 or whatever? But I don't know. I don't understand like what they're getting out of doing it right now.
That's a Kickstarter in 60 days.
Beyond, I mean, all that aside, right? What I really want to know is, let's assume for just half a second that's not a Steam box, because if it's a Steam box, then whatever, no one's going to care. Let's just assume for half a second that this is an actual console. Who in their right mind thought that this was a good idea? Like, there's room in this market for us to create our own console.
Who's going to want to develop for it?
Who's going to develop for it? I don't know. Atari is going to develop.
Oh, great. ET2 coming soon.
Pac-Man 3 or something. I don't know.
It costs a lot of goddamn money to make a fucking console. Like,
yeah.
You know what would be really funny is if we find out that Mike Kennedy is behind it. That would fucking crack. Does anybody know who Mike Kennedy is? Did I lose everybody? I fucking lost everybody.
I remember because you and I had a conversation about him. He's the one that had the Kickstarter for the
retro VGS,
console, right?
Retro VGS. So like, it would be really funny if like they're like, Mike Kennedy is heading our new console hardware department, and everybody goes, "Oh, fuck!" Like,
yeah, I mean, it's really bizarre. I'm not sure. Like, I wish I was a fly on that wall where, like, the CEO was pitching the idea to the rest of the board. Like, what would really, make our company great again? What would make us a household name again? A new console. That's what customers want, a new fucking console. Never mind that the Switch just came out, that there's going to be a new Xbox iteration, that PlayStation is selling like gangbusters. No, there's definitely room for a fourth console. Did you see how well the Ouya did? The Ouya did fantastic. We need to copy that.
What is even the last game that they made? Like, have they made it?
So I said that Hasbro owned them, but Hasbro doesn't own them anymore. It's Infogrames that owns Atari now.
And Infogrames is still around?
Yeah, man.
Like they were a huge name in the 90s, but I haven't even heard of them in forever.
Yeah, so they're like let me just verify, make sure my alcohol hasn't ruined my memory. Yeah. So they bought them from Hasbro in 2001.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know like how much money they're going to be able to provide, but I mean I don't know. It's weird. I mean, so they have some backing, I just, it's so weird because, like you said, a console is not cheap to make,
Right.
Even if they were doing like a Steam box or whatever, they still have to get the molding done, and there's marketing like that. That's not cheap. Like there's no way to put out a console without spending a shit ton of money.
And look, even if we assume that this is a Steam box, that's also a terrible idea. The Steam boxes haven't sold well.
Right.
No one is chomping at the bits to buy a Steam box.
Okay, so what would it take for Atari's console to get your money?
Jesus.
Just real quick, just food for thought. So I decided to look at what games produced by Atari are currently on the PlayStation Network. Star Raiders? Anybody? Nope. Warlords? Anybody? Nope.
It's not like really old.
Alone in the Dark, The New Nightmare, which most of us have probably heard of, but didn't do great. And Ghostbusters Sanctum of Slime. They have 4 games on PSN. 4.
I appreciate, though, that Sanctum of Slime, is an acronym for SOS. That's clever.
Yeah, they're gonna sell out and go bankrupt again after this. This is ridiculous.
But, like, what would it fucking take to get like your money?
Oh my god! I mean,
the fact that they said it's PC based makes me think that it's not going to be low end and it's not going to be a retro thing. It makes me think that they're going for a somewhat high end console.
I mean, obviously Atari has a lot of name brand recognition. A lot of people are familiar with the name, but anyone who, has bought a video game in the last, let's say, 10 years is going to be like, wait, Atari is doing what?
Yeah.
Why would I buy a console from them? I mean,
isn't like Atari featured like in the last Blade Runner?
That trailer. Yeah, that's right. They were.
That can't be a coincidence.
That's fucking weird. Now that you mention it, they announced.
Wait, they're featured in the
Blade Runner trailer. Yeah, they must have done like some kind of marketing deal with them.
Interesting.
So maybe something's afoot here.
I'm gonna have to look into this trailer thing. But
I mean, I'll be honest. If it looks okay and it's like less than a PS4 or something like that, I'll probably like get it just for like novelty's sake. I mean, I'm with you. I don't know, man. Like I like Atari. I just got an Atari Jaguar a few days ago, and I don't know, man.
I mean, that's for like research purposes.
Yes, that's what I'm telling people that it's. But I don't know, man. Like something about it. It was like back in Puerto Rico, man. Like when I was like 8 years old, that was the first console we had. And so it'd be great to see them do well, but this seems like the fucking dumbest thing they could do. Wait till the next console cycle or something. I don't
well, obviously we're going to keep an eye on this one very closely. I want to know more. Just if only to laugh at it. I want to know what the hell the internals are and what kind of games.
Sam Tramella's going to get the last laugh.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
We're gonna find out it's some fucking amazing thing that they've been holding on to. Like they have the secret to quantum computing, so like nothing else can even fucking compete with it.
It's an actual 64-bit Jaguar.
Maybe in an alternate universe, but not in this one. That's for sure.
Ironically, Mike Kennedy owns all the molds for the Atari Jaguar too. So.
Oh man.
So one more what the fuck story for you, and this is more along the lines of our standard what the fuck stories. A new game has been announced called Dream Dads, and it's pretty much exactly what you think it is. It's a dating sim style game where you play a dad who moves into a neighborhood of other dads that you can then date and court. And it's being voiced by the people behind Game Grumps are going to be voicing all the characters. I don't know why. I'll be totally honest. I don't watch a lot of Game Grumps. I'm familiar with them. I've seen a few of their things, but I'm not like a big fan or anything. So do you guys know? Is this like par for the course for what kind of humor they have, or I don't know.
I don't know them. Yeah.
I've watched maybe 8 to 10 of their videos total, something in that range, and this seems like something up their alley.
Were they like really into Had a Full Boyfriend, or? I
don't know.
Are you familiar with Had a Full Boyfriend, Yahel?
No.
Oh, it's another dating simulator game where you date birds, but you're a human. Man.
So
Yeah, you're
listen,
a
man,
human.
I love like shitty visual novel dating sims. Like they're my
This is right up your alley, but this is like done kind of tongue in cheek.
Oh yeah, good.
But
I
yeah,
mean,
so you should check that one out. It's not expensive or anything. And yeah, you're a human dating birds like pigeons and shit.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like I think this game will be fun. You know, I'm sure it'll be like probably like have like 5 different endings. Like each one probably takes you like 20, 30 minutes to get through, you know, or whatever. Like it'll be a fun waste of time. And I mean, this is probably like the perfect kind of game for them to like do, because from what I've seen from their videos, like I can, and no disrespect to those guys, but I can maybe watch about like 10 minutes of their videos and be entertained. And after that, I'm kind of like, I'm kind of over it. So this is good, like a short little, like, you know, concise episodes, you know, or whatever, different routes. I bet it'll do really well with their audience.
Yeah, so these are the selling points for the game. 7 dateable dads. There's a dad character creator, so you can create your dad Sona. There are multiple endings per dad. It's obviously voiced by the people of Game Grumps. And dad-themed mini and micro games through each date path. As well as so many dad puns, like to the point where it made us all uncomfortable. And finally, secrets with a lot of S's. Like secrets. So,
I think it'll be fine, man. You know, good for those guys. Hey, man, they're making a living, making YouTube videos, and now shitty, and I say shitty in the best way possible, is shitty like dating sim. Like, good for them.
Yeah, why not? Why not? So we're actually finishing pretty early for us, anyway. So we're gonna just to mix things up real quick. One game that you guys are playing this week that has your attention. What is it? I'll go first. I started playing Tides of Numeria again. I got like 2 hours in, and then I got annoyed with something, and I stopped playing it, and I went back, and I got myself rehooked. And
what series is that in?
Tides of Numeria. It's basically like a spiritual successor to Planescape Torment.
That's right. Okay, yeah, I know.
Yeah, so it's your isometric view, Western style RPG that is super text heavy, a lot of reading, but I love it. And it's set in a super crazy world, and you are basically like, there's this immortal being that keeps jumping from body to body, like he keeps creating bodies and moving his consciousness from each one. But when he leaves one body and jumps to the next, the former body gains its own sentience. And so you are the last cast off. You are the last shell, the most recent shell of this being, almost like a god. And there's this monster hunting all of you called the Sorrow. And you got to figure out what the fuck's going on and how to not die. And it's really cool.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
You want me to go? Okay.
Yeah. I know what game you're playing, but
yeah. So as you guys know, I've been playing PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, and I can't stop myself from playing it. It's terribly addictive, and I'm not usually into this kind of game, so it's a little surprising how hard it's grabbed me. But if you don't know, it's a battle arena game. It's a, what do you call it? Like the Hunger Games.
Well, but talk about the scale of it real quick, because saying battle royale doesn't mean anything to people. So how big is each match?
Well, I mean, so it's one death, right? So like each match lasts as long as you last.
Right. I'm saying, what is the starting number of players in each match?
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to get you to say.
Yeah, there's almost 100 every match. So it starts off. It's usually 98 to 99 people, sometimes just a little bit less than that. You all get on an AC-130, which is an airplane, and you parachute out onto this great big ass island. And you're on the ground with absolutely nothing to your name. You don't have a gun, you don't have weapons, you don't have armor, you don't have anything. And you have to, kind of like The Last of Us, you search houses and stuff for guns and armor and all that other good stuff. Medical supplies, energy drinks, painkillers, and it's super tense. And the whole time you're playing, the battleground is shrinking. So you all start on this big island somewhere, and then there's a circle that appears, and everybody has to get within the circle or they die. And then 2 minutes later, that another circle appears, and it's even smaller. And it just forces you together in a way that makes the last moments of the game like super, super tense. I scored third yesterday in a game, and I was like jumping out of my chair. I'm like, woo, yeah.
Okay, now that screenshot makes way more sense why you were so excited. I didn't realize it was like out of 100 people.
Yeah, but I scored third out of 100 people. Now, the other cool thing about this game is it's not like Overwatch, right? It's not about kill death ratio. It's not about getting the most kills. It's not about being the sharpest. Well, it is kind of about being the sharpest shot sometimes, but it's about strategy. You need to find places to camp out. You need to find, good strategic locations to defend. So like I had a moment, and you can watch this stuff on my Geek Ranch YouTube channel, but like I had a moment where I was hiding in a bathroom, fucking John Travolta style Pulp Fiction, and the door opens and I just sprayed that motherfucker with an Uzi. And it was so great. I don't know, like it's so tense because the sound design is awesome. You can hear distant gunshots. You can tell how close people are when they're walking. You can tell, you hear everything very, very, very clearly. There's no music.
I was going to say, do you get anything for being third? Is there a prize of some sort?
So you gain points based on how many people you kill and what place you make it to. So I think for being third, I got 400 and some points, which I can use to buy loot chests. So much like you see in Overwatch or something.
But what do the loot chests get you because you start on the island with nothing?
They get you different outfits, so you can look different.
So it's cosmetic stuff.
Yeah, it's cosmetic stuff. You can have sunglasses and do-rags and all that other shit. But I like when I'm not playing that game, I'm thinking about it. And then when I get pissed at that game when I'm playing, I'll sit down and watch TV for 30 minutes and then be like, I need to jump back in. And I'll get back on the computer and start playing it again. It's the craziest thing. It's a great game. It's really addictive.
That's awesome, man. I might check it out. Before you mentioned it in our chat, like I hadn't even heard of it somehow. And I didn't get why you were so into it. I was like, this seems like an FPS. Like, who cares? Like, it sounds awesome though, man.
It's super tense. And when you win a firefight, you just feel like the biggest badass in the world.
Yeah, it's sort of the darling of the PC gaming community right now.
Yeah, it was mentioned on so many podcasts. So many people were talking about playing it, and I'm like, I was like, I have to play this goddamn game.
I don't know how I didn't even hear about it.
Yeah, so I had to play it, and I love it.
Not one of the cool kids, Yahel.
I guess not, man. I'm old, man.
You're out of the loop.
What are you playing, Yahel?
Well, he's playing Jaguar. That's the problem.
You should have gone last. Yeah, I am playing Jaguar this weekend for research purposes, but I'm just going to play a little bit of Cybermorph. I know, terrible.
I have Cyber. That's a bad game.
Yeah. But I've actually been playing through Super Wing Commander on the 3DO, just because I had never. I had never played Super Wing Commander. Obviously not talking about the Super Nintendo version. That version's not good. And I've been playing Rocket League a lot lately, actually, with a buddy of mine. Which I'm really, really digging. It's fun to play when you're drunk because you can still be okay at it, you know, or at least you think you have a chance of being okay at it.
I got a question for you about Super Wing Commander. How does it compare to the Sega CD version?
I never played the Sega CD version.
Okay, but it's like it's voice acted and all that good stuff.
So they updated the graphics. So it's and they actually changed the look of some of the people a little bit. They did like little tweaks, but it's just like better graphics. It's basically just like the PC version of Wing Commander, just with better graphics basically and actual voice acting. Gotcha. So you don't have to like sit there reading the text, but it's awesome, man. It's a lot of fun. Like I actually bought like the entire Wing Commander series on GOG a few weeks ago, and then actually a couple months ago, and then I ended up snagging the Super Wing Commander for 3DO, so I switched to that, and It's awesome, man. But I've always loved the Wing Commander series.
Me too. Well, Wing Commander 4 is one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah. Oh, the trailer for it, like when Malcolm McDowell's like, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance.
Oh yeah,
so good, so good.
Awesome.
He makes anything, no matter how cheesy, sound good.
Yeah, and I mean at the time, like he had just been in Star Trek Generations.
Yes, Dr. Soren.
Yeah, he was Dr. Soren. So yeah. I'm totally with you. I totally agree. Just real quick, if you need some games for research, I've got some Jaguar games lying around. I think I have Alien versus Predator and Doom and some other.
You have good ones.
I have about 6 shit games, and I've got like 2 good games. So.
I have a buddy of mine that's gonna send me. He's got Aliens, and I know a guy who I'm pretty sure has Doom and some fighting game that I can't remember the name of right now. So I should be okay. Because I'm trying not to cover the games too much, but I just want to play through some just to like remember the great controls. The great controller.
That controller is weird to hold. Yeah, that controller's bad.
But yeah, I always think the Jaguar's a little underrated. Like I remember playing it at a friend's house. I never had one when it came out, but I remember thinking it was pretty cool, just not as cool as Atari told me it was going to be.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I'm
much like the Nintendo Switch.
I'd love to have a Jaguar CD too, but they want like $800.
Yeah, they're crazy. They're crazy, and they're all broken too. Like most of them.
Yep.
Interesting. All right, gents. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this week. As always, make sure you hit like, subscribe, comment below. We'd love to hear from you guys, and hit us up on Twitter at Pack Podcast. Until next time, I have been your host, Michael Schluger.
Josh Irwin.
And I'm your hell.
Have a great week of gaming. There's a lot of keys for us.